Welcome back to Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. I'm Joe Madden, joined by Scott Wetzel. We are watching my LA Chargers play the Houston Texans. And so far in this game, we've seen the Chargers be able to put up the points on the board, all of those coming by field goals. So we do have a 6-0 lead here for the LA Chargers in that first quarter. And now looking at those lines and how they have moved, the Chargers a 6.5-point favorite. So coming into this game, they were a 2.5-point favorite coming in, and that total has moved to 42.5. Now you're getting minus 128 to the under, 42.5, minus 102 to the over, but I would not take that to either side of that total right now. I do think the Houston Texans at some point will be able to get some points on the board. Looking at this one coming into it, I like the Chargers team total to the over 22.5. Now, when we look at what we're seeing out there, it was interesting because we saw CJ Stroud almost throw that interception. And Scott and I were talking at the break here. This is the first time ever I have seen, as the time has ticked on, us having to lay more juice on a quarterback to throw that interception. It normally works the other way, Scott, right? Like looking at this interception for CJ Stroud now that he's off the field is minus 144. It was minus 160 when he was out there. And coming into this game, it was only plus 110, I believe, for CJ Stroud. So time is ticking on, and we're getting better value or playing more juice for CJ Stroud to throw the interception. I think it's coming. And because of that, I love the Chargers for that defensive touchdown, Scott.
Yeah, right. I mean, how weird is that? You said it, Joe. I mean, and he's only thrown 2 passes. You know, the one was a completion, and the guy fumbles the ball, not his fault. And the second one was, not good. Let's face it. And he gets, picked off or nearly picked off. So the only thing I can think of is the Chargers, even though it's only 6-0. But maybe they're thinking Stroud's going to have to throw the ball that much more. But I don't think down 6-0, one score is really going to change the Houston Texans. Like if they were down 13-0, and the books are saying, well, he's going to have to throw the football a lot more. I get it, but I think they saw that one pass and they're like, you know what? The whole world's going to be betting on him to throw an interception because he's not looked good. So let's bump that up there, the minus 160. Yeah, I can't do that, right? You can't lay minus 160, 150. You got to. You said it, that by halftime, I mean, we got a whole quarter plus here, but normally that's positive money. It's not negative money on an interception.
Well, it's looking like a flag fest out there as well. We're seeing another flag here coming out. Ineligible man downfield for the LA Chargers. Like, come on, Scott. Why are these flags flying out? Houston got the last flag on them with the pass Was it pass? No, it wasn't pass interference. It was they went after the guy after the pass. Yeah, after calling for the fair catch. So come on, you guys, clean it up.
Yeah, that's one of those where you could call that. It's amazing with the NFL and really all sports, I guess. Maybe hockey might be the only one that's not really this way. Basketball certainly is. Like you could call the penalty in basketball. I rep basketball every single possession if you wanted to. You really could. NFL, same thing, right? I guarantee you give me a game and I will pick out a holding penalty on every single play, bar none. That's why I always laugh, Joe, when they say holding on, a pick a player, right? And then they'll show the highlight of that, and then the dopey announcers will be like, oh, yeah, he held him. Yeah, he held him. But he also held him 10 other plays, which weren't called back holding penalties. So the question is not whether he actually held him or not. The question is, why are you calling it now? That's the question with these things. So with that case, they showed a replay of it. Maybe you're allowed to be within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage. He was maybe 3.5. It was a quick little screen. I mean, come on. Again, you could call that almost every single play. So I hope this doesn't become a flag fest.
And another flag. Another flag. And this time it's on Houston for holding. Scott. It's on Hunter, number 55, the defensive end Hunter there for the Houston Texans. So I think that will give the Chargers the first down.
First down, yeah. That was third
and they were long, right? Oh,
yeah.
Not a pretty game.
Highlight of this one. Let's see. Daniel Hunter's rushing. Oh my God! You got to be kidding me, Joe. That is so stupid. So Daniel Hunter's the defensive end, right, or one of the front linemen. He's rushing the quarterback The running back is blocking him. He throws him to the side, and he's called for holding because the running back then releases and becomes a pass receiver. But he was blocking Hunter. That's just stupid. That's not defensive holding. I mean,
so you're telling me the refs want the Chargers to win today, right? This is what I'm seeing right now.
You know what? It's funny. Who was the rogue? Yeah, I'm sure referee that got caught gambling a few years back.
I can't remember.
What was his name? Anyway, they did a movie on him, right? They did a movie on Donahue, right? Thank you, guys. Donahue, right? So they did a great movie. It's a B movie, but it actually was very good. So he said in the movie, since he was part of it, basically all the things we think about. That's what he says the NBA does. Whether you believe him or not, who knows? But the point is, he said that if the game was supposed to, if he bet money on the LA Chargers, we'll just say, right? Well, he's not going to call penalties against the Houston Texans in the first, second, third, and fourth quarter. You can't do that. It's too obvious. So he said what we would do, or what I would do, is I'd call penalties on the Chargers the first and second quarter. This way, when the game really is tight and it counts, I can call now penalties on the Texans in the third and fourth quarter. This way, my team benefits. And then in the end, I got 15 fouls on the Chargers, 15 fouls on the Texans. But the 15 fouls on the Chargers came in the first half when you could overcome that stuff. So, like, all the things you think about as a gambler, like if you were going to rig something, that's how you would do it, right? You wouldn't make it so obvious and call 30 fouls on the Chargers. He said that's what he did. So, point to your question. It's a gross joke. Yeah, you just, they may be charging, calling fouls against the Texans, but ultimately, come fourth quarter, all right, they got a couple of bullets in their pocket. Now we could call a couple of close ones against the Chargers when it's, 17-17 and the Texans need our help. So,
interesting. Well, the Chargers are punting it away, Scott, and Justin Herbert's really lucky there when he threw that last throw. It was so wobbly, but looking at the replay, his arm did get hit as he threw it out there. So Justin Herbert for the anytime interception, with how strong his record has been, might not be a bad play out here because the Houston Texans are all over him in this game. I can't believe they were able to hold them to having to punt this one. So we're looking at Houston has the ball, 1st and 10 at their own 28-yard line, Scott.
Yeah, I don't think the Houston Texans are a very smart team, Joe. I really don't. So they just blocked the punt, right? But the block went forward. It didn't go backwards. I don't know how, because he was like all over the punter. I don't know how this thing didn't, he just didn't smother it. But he partially blocked it. It goes forward. So what's the problem, Scott? The problem is they let the ball bounce. And it bounced, and it bounced, and it bounced again, and then it bounced one more time. So now the punt ends up being like a 40, 45-yard punt because the dopes didn't pick the ball up and either run or at least down it. So there the Texans all celebrating on the sidelines like, oh, yeah, we just scored a touchdown. No, you didn't. You didn't accomplish anything. Yeah, you partially blocked the punt, but you didn't pick it up. You let it roll 40 yards down the field. They got the ball inside their own 30-yard line. Chargers were punting inside their own 40. I mean, they should be getting the ball around midfield. Maybe they're 40, 45. And the guy was right there, and he just let it roll down the field. And then again, they're the Texans at the sidelines like they just won the Super Bowl. What are you doing?
I don't know. I really don't know what they're doing. That total's dropped all the way to 39.5, Scott.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Time to go over if you haven't?
I do think you're still going to get some point. Let's see what the Texans do this drive. 2.5 minutes left to go, first quarter. They've yet to get a first down. If they don't get a first down here, then they'll punt. And then that thing will drop, quite a bit. 6 first downs for the Chargers. Let's see what the Texans do with this drive.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Hour number 2. We're moving along here on a Saturday afternoon. Scott and Joe until 8 p.m. Eastern time watching this first game. Hey, good news. The Texans actually got their first down. How about that? It took them damn near a quarter to get it. But, if you're on the Texan side of things, you say, listen, you know what? We played a lousy first quarter. We fumbled the football. We got penalties galore. We blocked a punt, which ended up not being really a block punt, and we're only down one score. If you're on the Chargers side of things, Joe, as you are, you say, hey, listen, you know what? We've dominated for a quarter. We may only be up 6-0, but we've held the Texans to, a first down or two? I know they're going to punt the ball down. I think they do anyway, 4th and 6 at the Charger 41. That'd be, a 57, 58-yard field goal? It's a bit tricky. Let's see what they do here, Joe. I don't know. 4th and 6, what would you do at the 41-yard line?
I think if I'm the Texans, I would go for it. We saw Joey Bosa get the sack for the loss on that last drive, though, Scott. So I'm happy that's one of the legs that I was needing. And if you bet that separately, it was just so juicy. It was minus 140, 145-ish in there, Scott, for his sack. I wish on the books you could take Joey Bosa for a couple of sacks because that offensive line hasn't given C.J. Stroud the protection and the time all season. So that was a nice player prop today, too. But I think the Texans have to go for it. What are you thinking? I'm seeing 4th and 6. It looks like they're going for it, Scott.
I got a feeling they're going to try and draw them off sides, and if they don't, they'll punt. That's what I'm thinking. But otherwise, I think you're indoors. I'm seeing the end of the first quarter. You're indoors, 57, 58-yarder. It's not impossible. I know you'd give the ball to the Chargers at midfield. You really don't want to do that. I got a feeling they're going to punt. I wouldn't criticize that. I don't think there's a right or wrong one. I get it's early in the game. You pin them back inside their own 10-yard line. I'd like to see them go for it, but I got a feeling they won't. I think they'll be conservative. I wonder why they don't do that. Here, like I said, in New York, Joe, they limited with some of this stuff. Not a lot. There's generally a lot, but I don't ever remember seeing second sacks. Do you? Like you get second interceptions or fumble or whatever the case may be. You don't generally see second sacks for some reason.
Yeah, let me just look at those defensive props and see if we're getting anything at all for those sacks. So even live, we're not getting any of the sacks out there, Scott, for those live bets. We're only seeing the defensive interceptions right now for those players. Now, I did play Derwin James. That line hasn't moved. Derwin James for the anytime interception still at plus 700 like it was going into this game, which I'm shocked by because we've had a full quarter tick off the board. I was expecting that to be like plus 1,000, Scott.
Yeah, you would think, but again, they're telling you basically they think C.J. Stroud's throwing an interception sometime today. So no matter who he gets, they're not going to bump those lines up too much because we played a full quarter now. Theoretically, that should go up 25% more than what it was to start the game, since you have 25% less of the game. Could have some fun since we're not getting too much action here. First touchdown score, usually not a market I dabble in too much, but we're doing in game. You get McConkey at 8-1. I'll see what the Texans do here. Let's because the Texans go for it, get the first down. There's no sense putting a Charger in. So let's see what the Texans do here. But I might go with a Quentin Johnson 10-1 or a McConkey 8-1 if the Chargers get the ball. They've been moving it fairly well.
Do you think they try to run it though? Right? That's what I wonder because they've had to put these field goals up. If they turn to J.K. Dobbins, he's so strong at running that ball. How many rushing yards does he have right now, Scott? Just pulling that up. 17 rushing yards only, 31.5 or 61.5 is his live number. Ladd's coming in with 10 receiving yards. Will Disley, who dropped that big pass, 16. I would not look at him for the first touchdown. You can't trust his hands right now. Yeah.
Right, if you're after seeing that miss, if you're Herbert, you're like, let's call another play here, coach. When they call a play for Disley, he's like, I think we're going to check out of that. So let's go to McConkey, right? So, all right, so fourth down, they're showing they're going to go for it. I bet they don't. I think they're just going to draw them off sides because this would be a dangerous spot. Although I'd like to see it. They got single coverage on both sides of the field. What does that tell you? Yeah, they're not going to snap.
Yeah.
They're all scrunched, and I like the play design. They're scrunched to the middle, and they got a receiver way to the right, Joe, and a receiver way to the left. And it doesn't appear that Houston's got double coverage on either guy. So what does that tell you about the Texans wide receiver? Like, you don't have enough faith in Nico Collins to say, here, go beat your man one-on-one?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of scary.
So,
right?
All right. So here we go back to the so Chargers are going to get the ball. How about a Texans defensive touchdown? We get them pinned back inside their own 5-yard line. They're offering us 23-1 on that. Let's see where they get the ball.
Okay.
You know what I love doing? I never see a coach do it. Like go for a fake punt right now.
It's fantastic. If they can.
There isn't a defense in the world after you just gave them a 5 extra yards because you took the delayed game penalty. Yeah. Nobody's thinking fake punt. I'm telling you that would be so successful.
Oh, it absolutely would.
They got it inside the 7. I got to take a stab on Texans defensive touchdown, first TD of the game, 23-1. Why not?
Okay, and I'm going to take a stab on Justin Herbert. What's Justin Herbert coming in for the first touchdown of this game? Because, J.K. Dobbins, I could see 19. It, but we're 19-1. I'm willing to hit on that. I'm just trying to find it here on the book to get it in, Scott. Where are you finding the first touchdown? Because I'm seeing the touchdown score prop on the one page. Oh, it's under that.
Believe it or not, live SGP. I can see it.
I got it. Let's put Justin Herbert in. Right. I just look at Justin Herbert out here. We've seen him use his legs in prior games, and I think he has every ability with not trusting maybe some of his weapons out there just to put the weight of this first touchdown on his shoulders. So I'll go there. But they're deep. They're deep down here. This is a perfect recipe for the Houston Texans to get that defensive touchdown.
That's what I'm thinking. Maybe a sack, fumble the ball, little defensive interception, INT. Back to pass. Caught it. First down. That's not good. So much for that. Little flyer. I'm still alive. But just not as good now since they got it 20-yard line. In-game live for football games. They continue on the grid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live. Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Still searching for our first touchdown. Chargers leading the Texans 6-0 with the football, laying 5.5. Over-under is down to 36.5. Like I said, 2 field goals by the Chargers on their first 2 possessions, one after a turnover, short field. So defenses have, for the most part, dominated. Although the Chargers have actually moved the ball, Joe, right? They had it in this possession at their own 7-yard line after a pretty good punt, and they moved it, a couple of first downs, but they're not going to go 90 yards. They have to now punt, and now the Texans are going to get the ball deep inside their own territory. It's the perfect scenario for an under, An over, you get the ball inside your 10 and you're forced 3 and out, and now the opposition gets the ball around midfield, great field position. The under, you get a couple of first downs, you move it out from outside your own end zone, but it stalls, and then you have to punt the ball away, and then you pin the opposing team down. So that's what we've had so far today. Texans are lucky to be in this game. Chargers have dominated for the most part. Couple of drops here or there. They had another one. It wouldn't have been a first down, but there was another drop, by one of the wide receivers on that last drive by the Chargers. So, yeah, it's not been good.
He's on my hit list now, right? Quentin Johnston coming out here, dropping that ball. Again, all season long, Scott, he had every ability last year to prove himself, wasn't able to. He looked good in a couple of these games this season. And again, in these clutch moments, he's letting that ball go. So not impressed with what we're seeing out of him. One target, it would have been a big first down there for the Chargers, and instead they're kicking it away. I'm frustrated with this, these drops. Will Disley and Quentin Johnston costing the Chargers some big plays out there.
All right, we got Stroud. They're not giving you much of a bargain. And in fact, it's worse. His number was right around 231 to start the game. Passing yards only has 43, and it's up to 238.5. I thought it would be a little bit lower, but he's got the 43 yards. You have almost the entire second quarter, and they're trailing. So I guess I understand that, but I was hoping that was be at least like 210, 212. It's not really much of a bargain with CJ Stroud, so I'd probably stay off that one, even though they haven't had any success running the football.
No.
Not that they had a whole lot throwing it, but running the ball, what do they got, like 15 yards rushing? I think it is with Mixon. Not even that. 2 for 3 for Mixon, and that's it.
Wow.
They tried running the ball twice, and they've thrown the ball 6 times. I mean,
that's crazy. I actually can't believe those numbers are for Joe Mixon. He hasn't been able to put up a couple more yards out there. And if you're looking at CJ Stroud for that interception, it was that high of minus 160, Scott, is dropped to minus 118. I think if he can get through this drive, we're going to start to see some plus money. If you think that streak of Justin Herbert's will be broken today, you're almost getting 2-1 to your money. It's plus 198 for Justin Herbert to throw an interception with all the hype of him coming into this game. Not throwing those interceptions with his targets not looking great out there today. I don't know, Scott. It might be worth a shot. Only 3 interceptions, though, on the season. He's been absolutely stellar out there on the field for the Chargers. So I'm not willing to bite yet. Of course, I don't want him to throw that interception, but CJ Stroud, minus 118, it's a good number.
All right. At least that's come down from the 160, right? That was crazy. So I wouldn't bet Herbert right now just because Houston's got the ball. And if they go off on a 6, 7, 8 minute drive and they don't get the ball again until there's 4 or 5 minutes left, because there's less time in the game, that number will go even higher. So it's not going to go lower. That would be unprecedented. So I would hold off until the Chargers actually get the ball. Then I would put it in, or at least when the Texans are driving down the field and you know what they're going to do. Sometimes they yank it when the team actually has the ball. So put it in if you can when the Texans have it, but just not right now. Although that might not be too long because they got 3rd and 8 at the Houston 14-yard line. I thought I saw a mix and run of 14 yards. Would they wipe that off the board with a penalty? They must have.
They must
get 3
have.
yards.
Yeah,
So,
they must have, and I needed him over for his longest rush. So I had his longest rush to the over. So I think that was right on the number. Let me just remember here. Joe Mixon it was 14.5 for my betting slip, plus 100 to the over. So I believe it was right close to that number, Scott.
Oh, you know what it was, Joe? It made my fault. Yeah. It was to the 14-yard line. I thought it was Mixon for 14 yards. It was to the 14. My bad. So it was only 2 yards. This offense is uh-oh.
What happened?
CJ Stroud intercepted. Wow.
Tell me Derwin James. Please be Derwin James out there. No, it's not Derwin James. Hopefully you got him in for the interception at minus 118.
Leonard. Whoever that is.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live, Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. I can't believe I'm going to say this, Joe. I really, I'm almost ready to bail on the Texans. And I say that just because the Chargers lead 6-0. They just picked off C.J. Stroud, and they have the ball at the Texans' 39-yard line.
Interception, though.
That's why. I was going to say, and they're giving us the Chargers -5.5. It's like, they're in scoring position. It's amazing how the line is, I'm 3 plays behind. The line is real time, and then the score they give you and situation they give you is about a play or so behind. That's why it's only 5.5, Scott, because they just turned it over themselves.
So it went from plus 198 before Justin Herbert got the ball to plus 220. Then they locked it. And as soon as they locked that, he threw that ball, and Scott, it was intercepted. So
wow.
I hope someone made some money off that interception. I didn't take it. I wasn't stepping in front of my quarterback there. 3 interceptions on the year. CJ Stroud, they just flashed first interception of the postseason. Justin Herbert throwing that interception. I believe he threw an first interception on the road in the last 247, I believe, passing attempts they just put. So,
wow,
not pretty.
Not pretty. That was Joe, like a bad interception. Sometimes I hear these stats where the guy's thrown 150, 200, 250 passes in a row without interception. A lot of times what that tells me is, well, then you're really not trying, because there's a lot of interceptions that just aren't your fault. You throw the football before the guy makes the cut. The guy makes the cut the wrong time, and it's an interception. It goes down, interception for you because you did the right thing. So when you're not getting interceptions, that means you're waiting for the guy to make the cut, and the guy's got to be wide open. You're not throwing jump balls. So I don't put a whole lot of credence into interceptions. But that one actually was a bad interception. I mean, the guy was double covered. I don't know what he thought he had open there, but it wasn't there. Just like the C.J. Stroud. Stroud was probably even worse, his interception. But, all right, so you got back-to-back interceptions on plays like that. Boy, this is just an ugly football game. It really is. So, and the Texans already got 3rd and 18, just like that. I mean, man, they're doing nothing on offense. Houston.
No, they're really not. And I was looking to jump back in on CJ Stroud to throw another interception here. The books have everything locked. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. I really do think it's a strong suit to jump in. Yeah, they're not giving us great value. -118 for the second interception, Scott. So over 1.5. It's just not pretty. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to put the Chargers in a parlay with Baltimore, but that's still -185. And then if you put even Buffalo in, it's still -114. But I don't got a good feeling about this Houston Texan team anymore. I'm sitting on them. Got them in a tease, too, with 13 points. But they're punting. Again, they got 2 first downs. 2 first downs on one drive. They've had the ball how many times? 4 times now? And let's see. 1, 2. First one was a fumble, punt, interception, and now punt. 5 times. And they got 2 first downs. I mean, no offense, but your LA Chargers is not exactly, the 85 Chicago Bears here. I mean, you should be able to get some points on the board.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're definitely not the Bears. And it looks like from the TV, they're 4th and 8th, and they go for it because I'm showing on the books they are 1st and 10 at the Chargers 25-yard line. Or is that the Chargers? It's got to be the Chargers. The books aren't showing me who it is, so
yeah,
they've got to have it. I'm glad the Houston Texans didn't run it off, Scott. I would have been very disappointed in my Chargers then.
Yeah.
Okay, but we need to convert that touchdown. This is only a touchdown away from the Houston Texans taking the lead, right? Like this is like a defensive touchdown. This is CJ Stroud connecting with Nico Collins. This isn't a comfortable spot for the Chargers right now.
Yeah, this is one of those where, you're going to be kicking yourselves. I can't believe there's still 9 minutes and change, in the second quarter.
Yeah.
It's been a slow-moving game just because, back and forth with punting or interceptions. That's been the case. So, kind of weird. Houston, again, they get into the locker room down, 6 points. They ought to be thankful, but there's a long, long, long ways to go before we get to that. So 6.5 now. It's amazing. Houston has the ball. It's 5.5. Chargers have the ball at 6.5. Simple as that. You buy yourself 1 point, depending on when you want to put the bet in. You want to lay the 6.5 now. The Chargers have the ball, but they have it at their own 25-yard line, so it's not exactly like great field position. I think I would hold off on that. But the over/under is 34.5. That's 4 touchdowns plus. I don't know.
Are we going to see Houston be able to get touchdowns? And the Chargers as well, Scott? This has become a defensive battle where these offenses just are not clicking like I expected. I don't know if I want to take the under 34.5 because we know these teams sometimes come out of that locker room and they come out with that offensive firepower that we didn't see in the first half. So at minus 135 to the under 34.5, I don't want it, but I'm not willing to take the over either. You got any feeling on this?
I was leaning over, so I'm thinking I don't know if we're going to get Notre Dame, in Georgia or Notre Dame, Penn State with all the scoring in the fourth quarter here, but it's somewhere along the line, right? Things have to open up, I would think. I tell you, the team that's like sitting there licking their chops is the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are going to be in line to face the winner of this game unless the Broncos upset the Bills. I mean, if Kansas City's watching this game, Joe, they're saying, you know what? We'll take either one. Hell, we'll take both.
They are.
Yeah, right? This Texans team is not this Houston team in particular is not going into Kansas City and beating the Chiefs. There's no two ways about it. Maybe the Chargers, but yeah, I think.
Can you imagine the storyline if it was the Houston Texans that eliminated the Chiefs? That would be mind-blowing, right?
That would be.
I don't see it happening either.
Yeah.
They don't have the offensive firepower out there. CJ Stroud doesn't have enough weapons. He doesn't have the offensive line. So the Chargers need to find a way to capitalize on that. They need to come out stronger defensively and continue to rattle him out here, Scott. And Justin Herbert has to drive this ball down the field and get those touchdowns on the board. I'm still shocked at what the defense is doing here of the Houston Texans because we look at that secondary. Yes, it is strong. I think it's an underrated secondary, but you look at the run game here, the defense against the run, they're mid. Like they're not like a stellar run defense. So I just don't understand how the Chargers are not running that ball stronger.
Yeah. CJ Stroud, obviously he's not having a good game. But just to give you, in comparison's sake, last year in the 45-14 win against the Cleveland Browns, week number 1 of the postseason, he was 15 of 21 for 274 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wow. Obviously very good, right? They ran the ball as well for 76 yards. So it was basically on C.J. Stroud's throwing. So far today, Stroud is an unimpressive 6 of 11 for 66 yards with an interception and sacked it twice already.
Yeah.
So, tale of two cities here. Will it turn around? I'm hoping so, but boy, they can't. They've run the ball 3 times for 6 yards. It's like they're doing nothing. And some of Stroud's passes are just like the one interception and another interception that he should have had was like, where are you throwing the ball, man? Just like no one's even there. You forget he's only a second-year player. You just make some judgment mistakes, and that's what he's doing. So Herbert, another completion. He's 8 of 17, 8 of 15, 8 of 15 for 97 yards, and they got the ball right around midfield. So there's your boy McConkey. I'm telling you, he's the main man clearly on this team.
He absolutely is. You can trust his hands, Scott.
Yeah. 4 receptions for 56. What did we say we got him at? 5.5 or 6.5? Yeah, 7. You're well on your way. You may get that by halftime, believe it or not. Let's look at his numbers when we come back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Game Day, Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Joe, just looking for a little bet here. Joe, let me put in LA Chargers, first touchdown, Chargers defense, just because they punted the ball and they got the Texans at their own 1 yard line. So 17-1, folks. That's not bad. Now, we don't want a safety. But, back to pass, C.J. Stroud scrambling, sack, fumble, interception, the way he's been throwing the football, 17-1. We got the Texans defense at, 23-1, and we got the Chargers defense now. So we'll see what happens. Why not? Good little hunch play.
Yeah, I like it. I actually am shocked that you're still getting minus 118 for CJ Stroud to throw that second interception, Scott. I was thinking with the situation they're in, that would have been like minus 140, minus 150 with him under pressure there. So I love the defensive touchdown. That's something that I've been playing all season here, and the LA Chargers have every ability to get it, and you're getting great plus money on that. I'm going to jump back in on it with you there, even though I have them for the regular touchdown. With that value, I can't not have them for the first touchdown there. CJ Stroud, 66 passing yards. Justin Herbert, 97. What's happening to the offense here at the Chargers? They need to open up, Scott. This is frustrating.
What happens if there's no touchdown score? Say it ends up being a field goal game. Do we get our money back on first touchdown? Or any touchdown prop for that matter? I don't think you would get it for any touchdown, but maybe first touchdown you might. I don't think so either, but I'm kind of hoping. No. We got a long ways to go, obviously. It's still second quarter, but the way this game is playing out, I mean, it could very well be the case.
This is the game that's killing that rushing touchdown bet that we put in, right? Yeah, this is the game right here. We're not going to get it.
We could lose it all. First game, we might not get a touchdown out of both teams even, let alone the rushing touchdown. No. I mean, the offense has got to pick up here. But something's got to happen.
Yeah.
Man. McConkey's got 56 yards. They're giving us 94.5 with him. Disney's got 16 for 31.5. Nothing for Dobbins, 4.5. I got to check and see how much they throw there. It's locked. Something crazy may have happened.
Okay, I'm seeing CJ Stroud about to pass that ball off. He passed it, run play by the Texans. So they did move it about 6 yards. That's what I'm seeing,
Okay.
Scott.
Yep.
Second down.
Right out to the 7-yard line. Still pretty good.
Yeah.
If he goes back to pass, he could still scramble in his end zone. Or if he throws a little flare pass in the flank, they could still get picked off in return. So we're still very much alive for that one. All right, here come the numbers back. Yeah, finally. We get all the Charger numbers. Obviously, Houston has the ball right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to get a first down here, right? They can't be kicking and punting from their own end zone. So whatever, special plays they have in their back pocket, the Houston Texans, use them now, because if you punt here, there's only so many times your defense, what was that pass?
So how is that
not
allowed that
grounding,
pass, right? Like that should be intentional grounding 100%. He was scrambling in his own end zone, just threw the ball away. It's 100% intentional grounding. But they're not calling the flag.
If he was outside the pocket, let's see if I got to see the highlight. He might not have been outside, or it might have been outside the pocket.
Oh, he just got outside the pocket. Just. Maybe a step.
See. Oof, barely, yeah.
Yeah.
Barely, Joe. Yeah, that's well, it's hard not to be outside the pocket. I mean, the pocket is so small, but it was pretty close. That could have been 2 points for the Chargers. So here we go. Third down. First down. Nice completion.
Yeah, we got the first down. That total, 31.5, Scott. That's getting to the point where I'm starting to look at that total. Second half, we have to see the touchdowns coming, right? Are we going to have like a 15-10 game? 25 points?
I don't
know. Man,
so.
Good.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
We'll play out the first half because that first down didn't help matters. Normally first down's great, right? No, you don't want the first down there if you got the over. You want them punting the ball. So now they can take a couple more minutes off the clock and get further down the field, have their drive like it's been. Have their drive, maybe stall at the 30, 35-yard line, punt the ball, and the Chargers will get the ball deep inside their own territory. So so they got after the 23 for first down Texans. Down 6-0. Boy, very little movement in this game. It's been basically 5.5 since it was 6-0. Popped up to 6.5 there for a second, but right back down to 5.5 when Houston has the ball, 6.5 when the Chargers have the ball. And the over now is at 30.5. 28 is my magic number. 27.5. If it can get to, that's a long ways away, but can it get to 3 touchdowns having the game go over? So either 27.5, 28.5, because I think the Chargers would go for 2 since they got 6 points. That's where I'll really seriously start jumping in again. Like, we're going to get some points in the second half. You can't play this bad for an entire game. You can't.
No, you absolutely cannot. So let's see what the Houston Texans have here. I'm seeing 1st and 10 for them. Actually, the books have them 2nd and 10. So I'm glad I'm not on the couch, Scott, and we're sitting here together because I tell you, I'd be stress eating right now. As a Chargers fan, seeing them up 6-0 with them doing so little, being able to convert in this one. Oh, we almost had another interception. This is just not a pretty case. So that line's still 6.5. That total now, Scott, getting close to the 27.5 you want. I just saw 29.5 jump to 30.5. So it's bouncing. Watch those numbers, you guys.
By the way, the Ottawa Senators are outscoring the Houston Texans, and they're only trailing the Chargers 6-5 after 2.
Oh,
Pittsburgh in hockey. So if you have that little prop, who's the biggest scorer? Like they have that in the Super Bowl, the cross sport props, right? Who's going to score more points? LeBron or the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Today you could have had the Ottawa Senators get monster odds as the biggest scorer, and they may end up being the case. So
it's crazy.
Yeah. All right. So Texans got it. It's they're going backwards. We're back to the 12-yard line. Must have been a sack. So we're definitely alive for that defensive touchdown for the Chargers here. First TD. We'll see what happens when we come back. In-game live football game day.
do we have a fantasy star on our hands here, George? Here is the question with Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. A lot of folks went into the fantasy season saying, hey, look, maybe this isn't Anthony Richardson, but it could be the next best thing. I'm here to tell you, I don't know. I'm sort of feeling like Daniels could be better than Anthony Richardson.
I don't know if I'm going to go there yet, all right, but I think he's in the conversation, yeah. What did we hear at draft time? A lot of people wanted a quarterback who could move, right? You don't want the guy who's going to take 5-7 steps and throw the football anymore because you want that additional rushing yards. You know, you get 50, 60 yards, that's a touchdown, right? That's why Josh Allen is so valuable. Lamar Jackson is so valuable, right? You go up and down. Jalen Hurts. You go up and down here. I think Daniels is going to be a good quarterback. I think Washington got their guy, and he can throw the football too. We know McLaurin's a really good wide receiver. It may not be much else there. We'll see what McCaffrey can be. Luke McCaffrey can be there in time. But, you know, I do have hope for him. I think at season's end, he's going to be a quarterback one. It may be a low-end quarterback one, but a quarterback one nonetheless.
Yeah, I was really impressed watching him in that game. All right, now Anthony Richardson, look, he's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big fantasy year. There's no question about it. I don't know about the long-term viability here. And look, give him credit. He hung in there with the Houston Texans. My fear for him, George, is that when you go back and you watch film, if you protect the deep ball against Richardson, he could hurt you with his legs. And that may be where all of his fantasy value is coming from. I cannot see him throwing 2 70-yard bombs like he did again.
That should come in time, right? Practice time. I think he will get better here. I think Richardson is going to be fine. Does need to learn how to avoid hits. All right. Once again, remember that hit from Tua last night? He initiated it. Slide. The rules are made for you not to get hit. Take advantage of them.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Pro Football Game Day here on the Grid. Got a commercial in the game, a 6-0 still. Nothing has changed. Texans with the football right around midfield. So with that little time, do a little Sports Millions action here on the Grid. With that, Joe, we pick higher or lower on a prop or two that we really like in any of the games. I'm kicking things around here. I'm going to go to the second football game tonight, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I think I'm leaning towards the contrarian, and I'm looking to go negative, believe it or not, on Derrick Henry props. And it would be like, why in the world would you ever do that, Scott? Well, because it's John Harbaugh, and you know, as much as I like to criticize him, if I'm going to criticize him for being a bad play caller, then I'm going to have to play into that. And this is Harbaugh at his worst, just like it's Dan Campbell at his worst. And his worst is ignoring his best player, which is not Lamar Jackson. It's Derrick Henry. So I'm leaning towards negative numbers on Derrick Henry just because when I'm yelling and screaming at the TV set, why aren't you handing the ball up to Derrick Henry? I'm going to at least make some money on it because I'm thinking less carries, less yards, less touchdowns, negative stuff. And he had, Pittsburgh has had only allowed 2 100-yard rushers this year, which is, 2 out of 17, not bad, right? Now, one of them was Derrick Henry. He ran for 160 yards, but that was in a Baltimore blowout win. And because of that, I'm thinking Pittsburgh is going to really stuff the box and really force Lamar Jackson to throw the football. And without his best wide receiver, I think that spells disaster. So I'm leaning right now. I got to look the numbers here. Negative on Derrick Henry, believe it or not.
Okay, and I can see that because the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to want to lock him down out there on the field. They know that they cannot allow him to break free. So I like that you're going with that to the lower. And when I look at my Sports Millions pick 'em, Scott, I have to look at some action out there on the ice. I'm looking at the matchup between the Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now the Leafs have a backup goaltender in, and I'm looking for a playmaker out there on the Vancouver Canucks that I think can go higher than a half a point, and that's Elias Pettersson. I really like what Elias Pettersson is able to bring to the table, and I do think we can probably see him get that goal for that point tonight. So higher than a half a point coming in here for him. He has 10 goals and 18 assists on the season against a backup goaltender here and against a Leafs defense. So while they do try to lock down, sometimes a little bit overrated, especially here at home. And they do allow a team like the Vancouver Canucks, who are so much stronger on the road than they are in their own home stadium, that have been putting up those goals to get those points on the board. So give me Elias Pettersson higher than a half a point tonight, Scott.
All right. I'm going to settle in on Derrick Henry. I'm going to go anti. They have the higher or lower rushing yards. Longest one, 19.5. Yeah, he's capable of ripping one off late in the game, 25 yards. So I'm going to stay away from that. How about player rushing attempts? Right around 20.5. I've told you this before. The Ravens have not lost a football game this season in which he's had 20 rushing attempts, which is all the more reason why John Harbaugh won't handle the football. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to settle in on the rushing yards. 96.5 is the total. Basically, he needs 100 yards. Again, you know what? Or 99 even, maybe, depending on the number you get there with Sports Millions. I'm going to go under. He should go over. It would be the smart thing to do, especially without Zay Flowers, their best wide receiver anyway. But again, I've seen John Harbaugh in action, and I've seen him go out of his way to make Lamar Jackson the star. So expect a lot of Lamar running and a lot of Lamar passing and a lot of neglecting Derrick Henry. So I'm going to go under rushing yards, Derrick Henry, or lower rushing yards, Derrick Henry. My bad.
Yeah, I like that as well, even though I think he'll get in the end zone. I think Derrick Henry has the ability to stay lower than that number, Scott. And again, I will look out there on the ice. I'm going to lock in Elias Pettersson higher than a half a point out here for the Vancouver Canucks. I just love his ability against a backup goaltender to be able to put that goal or the assist on the board. You can get the point in either way. So it should be a strong night out there on the ice and as well on the football field for us Sports Millions.
All right, there you go. So Elias Pettersson higher. Elias Pettersson, here we go. Higher half a point, and then we're going to go Derrick Henry lower 96.5 yards. Look at folks, Sports Billions. Let's get some winners.
Do we have a fantasy star on our hands here, George? Here is the question with Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. A lot of folks went into the fantasy season saying, hey, look, maybe this isn't Anthony Richardson, but it could be the next best thing. I'm here to tell you, I don't know. I'm sort of feeling like Daniels could be better than Anthony Richardson.
I don't know if I'm going to go there yet, all right, but I think he's in the conversation, yeah. What did we hear at draft time? A lot of people wanted a quarterback who can move. Right? You don't want the guy who's going to take 5-7 steps and throw the football anymore because you want that additional rushing yards. You get 50, 60 yards, that's a touchdown. Right? That's why Josh Allen is so valuable. Lamar Jackson is so valuable. Right? You go up and down. Jalen Hurts. You go up and down here. I think Daniels is going to be a good quarterback. I think Washington got their guy, and he can throw the football too. We know McLaurin's a really good wide receiver. It may not be much else there. We'll see what McCaffrey can be. Luke McCaffrey can be there in time. But I do have hope for him. I think at season's end he's going to be a quarterback one. It may be a low end quarterback one, but a quarterback one nonetheless.
Yeah, I was really impressed watching him in that game. All right, now Anthony Richardson, look, he's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big fantasy year. There's no question about it. I don't know about the long-term viability here. And look, give him credit. He hung in there with the Houston Texans. My fear for him, George, is that when you go back and you watch film, if you protect the deep ball against Richardson, he could hurt you with his legs. And that may be where all of his fantasy value is coming from. I cannot see him throwing 2 70-yard bombs like he did again.
That should come in time, right? Practice time. I think he will get better here. I think Richardson is going to be fine. Does need to learn how to avoid hits. All right. Once again, that hit. Remember that hit from Tua last night? He initiated it. Slide. The rules are made for you not to get hit. Take advantage of them.
welcome in. It is in-game live Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Hour number 3 of our 4-hour extravaganza. Scott and Joe until 8 p.m. Eastern time with a scoring change while we were away. Believe it or not, as bad as the Houston Texans have played, they actually have the lead, 7-6. A touchdown pass, short one there from about the 12 yards out or so to Nico Collins from C.J. Stroud. And just like that, Joe, after really being dominated the entire first half, the Texans somehow or another, as I mentioned, have the lead 7-6.
I want to take my ball and go home, Scott. I'm not impressed with what we've seen out here, right? Like, I don't even know what to say. I'm kind of speechless with how easy it was for Nico Collins to get in the end zone there. CJ Stroud just made a beautiful pass, and now we see Justin Herbert trying his darndest to get that ball moving down the field. But it's not looking pretty out there at all. Now, the Chargers are still the favorite at -130 on the money line, so not giving us any reprieve with them down by 1. But it was another missed pass. The wide receiver should have been able to hold that one in. So, Scott, I'm disappointed with what I'm seeing. -128 now for the Chargers. The rock in my stomach is really heavy. I don't know if you can tell that, but I don't know what to say. I tell you speechless.
What, if they don't get a first down, DJ Chark was the one who just dropped that ball. And he was contested, but he got his hands. You got to make some of these catches if you want to win playoff games in particular. But they're going to punt the ball away here. It looks like 3rd and 10. So, but if they do, they don't get a first down here. But Texans are going to get the ball back with about 35 to 40 seconds left. Chance to maybe even score some more. But, we talked about I can't believe there actually is still an underdog. It's +1.5, not that big a deal. But I would have thought maybe the Texans would have been favored in this game at this point. But being out, dominated for the most part, but still having the lead and only a 2.5-point dog to begin with. It's almost pick 'em, but like I said, you can still get the Texans +1.5. I think if they get the ball back here, it'll flip. Then it might be the Texans, depending on how much time and where they get it. But we said it. We're looking at from the Texans standpoint of, well, if you get it to halftime down 6, you could say you got outplayed and it's still only a 1-score game. Now they could say it's the same exact thing, Joe, but say we actually got the lead. We've been outplayed completely for the most part, except for one drive, and here we're sitting with a 7-6 lead. So, not looking good if you were trying. The over-under's back up to 34.5. Would it get down to 30.5? I don't know if it got to 29.5, outside of a second or so.
I just saw it flicker there, Scott. So this is not good. This was my biggest fear riding with the Chargers, was that everyone thought this was the easiest opponent in the wild card round, was getting the Houston Texans. Everyone wanted the Houston Texans. The Chargers land them here, and they're absolutely struggling to move that ball. You look at those stats out there. Justin Herbert's only thrown for 97 yards, and he tried another attempt there, and it was out. We've seen 35 rushing yards out of this team. It's just not where the Chargers needed to be in this game at this point. And CJ Stroud, yes, he's actually, Scott, 167 passing yards now for CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? He had a big bomb, obviously, 34 yards to Hutchinson. I'm blown away here.
He's got, you're right. I mean, he had like 50 for the longest time. Even Herbert, I remember, had 41 that first drive. So he's had basically 56 yards. Now, basically, he's had 56 yards since that first drive. So next to nothing. And then Stroud was sitting on basically nothing until that last drive when they went, 90 yards or so. In fact, that may have been the drive that started at their own 1-yard line. Was that a 99-yard drive? I'll have to double check. But 2 big passes. Yeah, right. Nico went to 37. He had a 37-yard reception to Nico Collins. So if you played his higher, that hit. Hutchinson had one, Xavier Hutchinson, for 34. And I remember Stroud's over-under longest completion was 35.5. So if you played the over on that, that obviously hit. And you're right. He's all the way up. This guy looks like he's had a great first half. I mean, 13 of 22, not too bad. 171 yards, touchdown pass, 1 interception, no big deal. When in reality, for the most part, he's been awful. The Texan offense has been awful, but the numbers say otherwise, and that's what counts right now.
It is. It's awful. Scott, this is an awful situation to be in if you're backing the Chargers right now. Jim Harbaugh is going to have to come out with a really solid game plan in the second half because the defense here of the Houston Texans has got to Justin Herbert once. They pressured him 9 times and they were being able to force him to make those mistakes out there on the field, already throwing that interception when he's only had 3 on the whole season here. It's just not pretty. And we need the defense of the Chargers to really step up as CJ Stroud is scrambling for that first down and he's still running, Scott. I don't know what to do right now. They're in field goal range. CJ Stroud just ripped a huge long 27-yard run.
Wow. I got to tell you, I'll be honest, as I always am. I was about to say, you know what? I think the Texans are making a mistake, trying to get a play here. They had the ball at their own 25-yard line. You're up 7-6. You're in a quarter which you've been completely dominated, and yet you get out of this thing at halftime leading, and you get the ball first to start the second half. And I'm not a big proponent of these 25-second drives here. I'm just not, especially with a quarterback that for the most part hasn't been very good, and yet, boom, there they are. You're right. What about 40-yard scramble there down to around the 35-yard line? 14 seconds left. I mean, if they tack on 3 more here. Wow, 13 seconds left. Yeah.
Houston is now the favorite, minus 154.
Yeah, I figured. Wow. No, I figured with them being in scoring position. I'm surprised it's not actually a little bit more. They got it at they spiked the ball. Well, they got it at the Charger 32-yard line, 9 seconds left. So they picked up 5 yards here. I'm always a play or 2 behind. So you're looking right now at a 50-yard field goal with 9 seconds left. Maybe they'll try one more play. I would think they try and get one more play in there with the timeout, 9 seconds left. But they're in position. And, again, they get the ball to start the second half. So nice little run there. 9 seconds left. Boy, the Chargers are in trouble.
I would trade the national championship game in a heartbeat right now for the Chargers to win this game. Like I would. This was my biggest fear in this game, that everyone underestimated what the Houston Texans can do. And I think even Jim Harbaugh probably underestimated this team and the Chargers. So let's see that second half. The Chargers, if you believe in them to come back, plus 128. And this is a team that has dominated up until this last couple drives here by the Houston Texans, right, Scott? So we should see the Chargers bounce back. Fingers crossed. Plus 128, though. Is it enough value? They're minus 160 coming in.
I would wait. Let them kick the field goal here, which they just completed another 7-8 yards. So now you're looking like a 42, 43-yarder. Let them kick the field goal at any chance. It's good. It'll go up a little bit more. If it's not good, it probably would drop a little bit. I mean, it's probably built in that they're now going to make the field goal, but I would wait. And once they do, I might even still wait, Joe, just because the Texans are going to get the ball to start the second half. So if you're looking to play the Chargers here, I know it's tempting to just give them to me right now. I think I would wait. Field goal is good. So it is 10-6, 3 seconds left. So barring something crazy, that'll be the score at halftime. It's up to plus 132. But again, Texans get the ball, so I would hold off betting the Chargers. No. Let's see what the Texans do with their first drive. Because even if they don't score, I don't think that plus 132 is going to move.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we are at the half. Scott and Joe until 8 p.m. Eastern time. Football-wise, Houston leading the LA Chargers 10-6. So with that, why don't we talk a little football, a little hockey tonight. Good, great slate of hockey games, as there always are on Saturdays. Some NBA, a little college basketball as well, as we welcome in our next guest, first guest really of the evening. Andrew McGinnis going to give us a couple of winners for all his plays. Check out all his picks. Go to wagertalk.com. Look for Andrew McGinnis' logo. Punch it in, and you get the plays there. Andrew, Scott, and Joe, how are you this evening?
Doing great, guys. I mean, what a weekend of sports. What a weekend. NFL, we got NHL, UFC. I mean, you can't really go wrong. College football past few days. Great to be here, guys. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. I really appreciate you joining us today. Now, when you were coming in, we heard that you did have the Houston Texans team total in the first half. And man, I can't believe that cashed, Andrew, over 9.5. They were able to put up those 10 points. What about the full game? Did you have anything else that people should be jumping in on?
So I had the first half team total for the Houston Texans, but my only real full game wager was a prop, and it was on Justin Herbert on his passing yards. Got a few other ones as well, but that was mostly my main one. And then right now, guys, based on what we just saw to end the half, I almost feel better about it because, you know, earlier on, I was kind of looking at the live prop numbers, and Justin Herbert's passing props started to go down. I mean, they were kind of moving the ball easily, started to run the ball. And let's face it, Houston wasn't looking very good in the first quarter. But now that things are competitive, now that they put 10 points on the board, Herbert will have to throw the ball a lot more. So I would look towards those passing yards for Herbert. And let's be real, guys. Is Ladd McConkey going to be someone that, you know, we look towards for live bets? I mean, he already has a ton of receptions, but it looks like they're going to continue to go to him again and again and again every time.
Yeah, that's what Joe and I, Andrew, were talking about earlier. I mean, he's at 56. They're giving you 94.5. He's turning into the number one guy for them. Not that he wasn't already, but he clearly is again today. And Disley's dropping passes left and right. So just give me your impressions, gambling aside, 10-6. It looked like it was going to be all Chargers, right? First couple of drives, it's 6-0, turnovers for the Texans. And yet somehow or another, here we are 30 minutes in, and the Texans have the lead.
Well, you know, I think the biggest play, I think, that really changed that half, and this might surprise the people of me saying this, but when we saw Stroud throw that floater interception that I was just waiting to find out who that was going to, and there were no Texans players anywhere close. But then you see Justin Herbert go out, and I don't know what that play call was, but he rolls out to his right, he's like almost like a fadeaway to the left side of the field. It just seemed like a horrible play. I mean, when you get an interception, when your team turns the ball over, you need to be able to make something happen out of that. And instead, they just gave the ball right back. So I think the momentum shift has been so strong right now as far as the Texans are concerned. So now I'm curious to see if the Houston Texans are going to be able to run the ball. Because now that they got comfortable, they built some momentum, we'll see if they can start running the ball again. Because they did struggle early on with Mixon. But, it's amazing how things can change, guys, so fast. Because, you had people on social media, Joe, you were talking about it, how people were underestimating them. Well, the amount of things people were saying about C.J. Stroud after the first quarter compared to what they're saying now, it's crazy how fast things can change.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone jumping on bandwagons, it seems, one way or the other. But we've got a later game here with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. And it seems like a lot of people talking about the Baltimore Ravens coming out nice and strong, covering this number of 8.5. But it is a lot of points for Mike Tomlin to have in his pocket. What are you thinking in this one, Andrew?
Well, the big story a lot of people are talking about is the Steelers are just like limping into the postseason right now, almost like they got a gunshot wound and they just, they're barely even crawling into the postseason. But I don't really care about that because you know what I care about is the point spread range. That's what I care about. If this team is limping, walking, or running into the postseason, I care about the point spread range that we're being given here. So I would lean towards the Pittsburgh Steelers side. Just based on the number that we're getting, I think anybody interested in playing the favorite in this one should be playing the favorite, the first half, because that's where you're going to kind of see the early explosive plays, the big stuff going on, the big runs. The second half's where the adjustments take place, and second half's a lot of times where you see the backdoor covers. So as far as the spread is concerned, I'm looking towards taking the underdog in this one for the full game. And anybody out there that's kind of having, last minute thoughts about taking the favorite, I think the best bet would, if you're taking the favorite, would be in the first half. And guys, I kind of have some unique props here, not really the most flashy ones, but I like Justice Hill over on his rushing yards. I'm not talking Derrick Henry. I'm talking Justice Hill. And the number is now 9.5. I got it at 8.5 yesterday. And I just think that, with Lamar, he's going to run the ball. But when you've got Derrick Henry, he gets that big workload. Let's say he explodes for a big run. They might give him a break for a second, give Justice Hill the opportunity. He only needs, I think, 2 opportunities to get this, 2, maybe 3 rushing attempts to go over this. And speaking of Derrick Henry, well, guys, we know what he is. He's a rush running back. That's all he does. He's not going to be out there to catch the ball. So I locked him in under on receiving yards. The number was 5.5 that I got. I don't see him catching a ball. He is out there to run the ball, not to catch. So kind of 2 unique props for this game here, but I think they're pretty good ones.
All right. Hey, listen, as long as they're winners, you don't have to bet on Derrick Henry if you can win one with Justice Hill. And it's so much easier. You only have to get 10 yards versus basically 100 yards, Andrew. So I'm okay with goofy props. Joe and I love stuff like that. Yeah. How about in general at NFL? Will it be Kansas City three-peating? Do you have faith in Dan Campbell to get the Lions to their first ever Super Bowl? How do you see this thing playing out?
I've learned the hard way not to go against Kansas City, guys. I mean, nowadays, I just press it, put it in, and forget it. I think the Kansas City Chiefs, the pathway for them, I'm confident they're going to be able to get there. But I'm going to say this, and this might sound kind of funny. I'm a Packers fan, and I have very little faith in tomorrow compared to actually how I did last year. And I really do think if this Eagles team puts up a good performance tomorrow, and the fan in me wants them to lose, but the better in me thinks that they have an opportunity. If they have a strong performance tomorrow, passing game and rushing game, they could make some noise this year.
All right, talking with Andrew McGinnis. We can talk. We'll get some hockey winners from him when we come back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, talking to Andrew McGinnis, WagerTalk.com for all his picks. Gracious enough to give us a few here with the NFL stuff and a big slate of hockey tonight, including a number of games starting in about a half hour. So let's get some winners from Andrew McGinnis, WagerTalk.com on the NHL slate tonight. Andrew, we'll start with my beloved New Jersey Devils, who playing decent hockey. 2 years ago, they were the worst team in the NHL somehow or another. Here they are, Stanley Cup contenders. At home against the Tampa Bay Lightning, laying minus 146. How do you see this one playing out?
Scott, this time I got to go with the underdog here. I have to take the dog, and to me, it's just all about travel. We're seeing this Devils team right now. They've played the Rangers on the road, and I get it, not too far away with them. The Kraken, Sharks, Kings, Ducks, Hurricanes. This team has been traveling everywhere here, and for this Tampa Bay team, they've just been desperate for some consistency right now. They've been a little bit up and down, trouble finding their scorers a little bit on a night-in, night-out basis. This, to me, is a really good price to back a team that I thought coming into the season was a bit undervalued. I mean, I love what the Devils have done, but do you guys feel at all like Tampa Bay has kind of just been like written off? Like people aren't really talking about them anymore. It's like Florida, Toronto, Carolina, New Jersey. It's like, have you guys forgotten about this Tampa Bay Lightning team? They're still a great team despite trading away some guys.
Yeah, they absolutely are, Andrew. And I love that you're looking at them for the win tonight. I think they can get the win as well. They've been able to roll into New Jersey, win the last 5. And Jacob Markstrom's numbers versus Tampa Bay Lightning are just not good. I know that so well as a Calgary fan. When Tampa would come to town, he would struggle to keep those goals out of the net. So love that you're looking there. What about the matchup between the Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs? The Leafs do have a backup goaltender in tonight. He's got pretty solid numbers, total of 5.5. What are you expecting?
So this is a theory that I've been betting all season long, and a lot of people have been betting this theory, but it's betting the first period over when a team is off a shutout. And that's the example we have here. Vancouver coming off a shutout against Carolina was not a good performance for them, was not a good effort whatsoever. And kind of the theory behind the handicap is the desperation early on. Sometimes you sacrifice defense for offense, but also, you know, it's so important for you to go out there and win that first period. But when sometimes you're trying so hard to create, you give up chances as well. And so with the low total, the best part is a lot of these times in the scenarios, guys, you're getting a good price, minus 120, 125. when people are betting these first period over 1.5s at minus 140 or 150, you're pretty much buying at the highest point. But this is kind of a buy low spot when a team is coming off a shutout. So first period over, let's get some action early on, Canucks and Leafs.
All right. If I asked a hockey fan, Andrew, what team is 9-2 its last 11 games, and I'll give you 10 guesses, I think most hockey fans still wouldn't get the answer right. But the answer is the Montreal Canadiens. How do you see they got Montreal tonight playing? How do you see that thing playing out against Dallas?
And I will say I'm a fan, and I'm excited right now. I am really excited, and they're playing really well defensively. That's been the biggest thing. But they did play their young goaltender, the guy they called up, Jakub Dobiš, last night. He's played really well. So number one guy, Samuel Montembeault, will be in net tonight against Ottinger. But I do think this is a spot where we could see some goals. So I'm going to look towards goals in the over in the full game. But because Dallas are such big favorites, you're getting a really good price on team total over 2.5, minus 125 for the Canadiens. So I think right now with how this team is playing and their offense is clicking, they come back at home, the power play is playing well. I like over full game, over Habs team total over 2.5.
I love where you're going there. You know, Cole Caulfield has just been so phenomenally strong, even on the kill out there for you guys, Andrew. So love that you're going there with that game. What about the Columbus Blue Jackets taking on the St. Louis Blues? We do have Jack Greaves in for Columbus. Binghamton expected here for the Blues. Last time I looked, Blues $2 favorite, total 6.5.
I just love these rapid revenge spots, and it's exactly what we're getting here in this one with these two teams playing just over a week and a half ago. But one thing I've really narrowed in this season, guys, is the team totals, which I'm sure you've heard already a couple of them from me. It's just a nice way to get a big price into a much better one. And can you kind of right now take a look at that full game number versus the team total over 3.5? It's minus 120 for the St. Louis Blues. So you got that kind of rapid revenge spot. You got this spot here for St. Louis at home. And whenever I'm betting on Columbus or betting against them, I just play the team total. They win this game 5-4. We're still happy. I'll take over 3.5 goals for the St. Louis Blues.
There you go. Andrew again is get all his picks tonight. WagerTalk.com. Andrew, great job, man. We'll do it again soon.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the game starts so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Pro Football Game Day here on the Grid. Thanks to Andrew McGinnis. Again, check out his picks, wagertalk.com. A little NFL, a little NHL as well. Nothing wrong with that, that's for sure. Second half has begun, and boy, the momentum swings already. Just 2-3 minutes into the second half, Joe. Chargers and Houston Texans. Texans on top 10-6. It looked like it was going to be even more. They got the ball first to start the second half. They drove right down the field, all the momentum in the world. They get it inside the 20-yard line, actually inside the 25-yard line. And Joe Mixon, for the first time in 1,082 touches, fumbles the football. So instead of the Texans at worst getting a field goal, that would have been first down. They turned the ball over. Chargers get it, and boom, what are we? 2 plays later, there's a long completion of McConkey and a face mask on top of that, and now they got it down to the Houston 34-yard line. So if the Texans don't win this game, that's the drive that we're going to point to. That's the play we're going to point to. Where that was, potentially a 14-point swing here, depending on what Houston would have done and what the Chargers end up doing. Man, you can't fumble the ball, Joe Mixon. I know he doesn't fumble it a lot, but man, he picked the unopportune time to have his first fumble in over 1,000 touches.
Yeah, absolutely the worst time there for the Houston Texans for him to do so, but a great time for my Chargers, Scott. We are seeing Gus Edwards really being used out there on the field right now by the LA Chargers. 6 carries for 20 yards, and the last couple of plays have all been him. So we're 3rd and 2nd for the LA Chargers right now. They need to convert this one, and we are seeing it go straight back to Gus Edwards, but he didn't get anywhere on that play. So Houston was ready for that one.
All right. Another reception, by the way, from McConkey, and he did get credit for that. So what's he up to now, Joe?
I believe 5 or 7. Or 5 or 6.
I think
5.
I think it's 6, right?
Okay.
He's at 73 yards, I'll tell you that, and his number's at 109.5, and it was 94.5. So I think he was 5 for reception. Yeah, let's just double check and just make sure.
I'm seeing 9
way,
targets, 5 receptions.
Yeah, okay. He's going to get his total. I mean,
yeah,
they're going to him. And, the Texans defense left them wide open on that one reception. So somehow or another, Houston got the ball back. Oh, 4th and 2, and they don't get the first down.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not pretty, Scott. This is definitely not the game the Chargers needed.
Here's a pet peeve, Joe, of every football fan in the world. It's 4th and 2, and the wide receiver, not McConkey, wants a run yard pass. Yeah. Hello? Anybody home? You need 2. You need 2. You know the defensive back is playing you tight, right? It's not like it's 1st and 10 and he's playing 5 yards off you. You know he's right on you. Run an extra freaking yard. This way, when you make the catch and you get tackled, it's a first down. I mean, it's like basic. What are you doing?
I don't know, Scott. I really don't know. I'm speechless out here with how good Houston is looking defensively and how poor the Chargers are looking offensively. I didn't have that concern, especially with the run game here of the Chargers. I expected the Chargers to be able to move the ball on the ground. They've only been able to rush for 43 yards. Scott, that just isn't good enough against a Houston Texans team that is really mid against the run. 26 yards for J.K. Dobbins on 8 carries, longest being 8. Gus Edwards, 6 carries, 20 yards in total, his longest being 8. Davis coming out here getting negative yards of 3. Justin Herbert, we haven't seen run the ball. We've seen 114 receiving yards out of the Chargers. This has to be 114 rushing yards for this team to get the win. They have to start going into Jim Harbaugh's plan. Run the frickin' ball, Scott.
Yeah. They gave, I don't know if there was just an error, but they had Herbert down 10 of 22 for 122 yards. And now he's at 9 for 22 for 114 yards. So they took away like a 5, 6, 7 yard completion somewhere along the line, unless they made a mistake in posting it. On the I'm looking at the 4-letter network's box score here. So he only has 9 completions. He had 4 in his first drive, Joe, and we're now 5 minutes into the third quarter, and he's had only 5 completions since then. But he was 4 of 4, and since then he's 5 of 18 for about 60 yards, 70 yards.
What is his passing prop at right now? 228.5 of his passing number. Scott, what did you get this? 231.5? So it hasn't come down that much, right?
No.
Wow. I'm shocked.
Yeah, well, I think, because they're losing. So, I mean, they're not losing by a lot. So, again, theoretically, they shouldn't really have to lose their, running game plan. But he's over halfway there, but you got 5 minutes into the, third quarter.
Yeah.
So,
but they're having no success running the ball, right? They're not able to move this ball on the ground. So that's telling me they have to get it moving through the air with Ladd. Quentin Johnson actually did catch the ball on that last play that you were talking about, where he should have ran for an extra yard before turning around to catch the ball. So, and it looks like the Texans, nice first down right away, straight out of the gate, first down, Scott. So CJ Stroud's already thrown for 228 yards in this game. His live number was just 331.5, and he just ran for another play. That was all him on the ground. What has happened to the Chargers defense? Have they given up in this game? Is this just the Chargers in the playoffs? This is what we always see.
The Chargers, I will say, we were laughing about it. I knew you weren't laughing when we were joking about it before the game.
I was never laughing.
I know you weren't. I shouldn't have said that. But they have a long list of postseason just heartbreaks. Not just like losses, just like, man, whether it's the game against the Patriots, game against the Jets. I go back to the Marty Schottenheimer days when they're missing field goals at the end of games because he goes conservative and settles for 47 yards. I mean, it's just the Super Bowl. They get smashed by San Francisco. That's a little Cinderella story run there. That didn't work out. I mean, it's one bad playoff loss. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they blow the 3-score lead a couple of years ago. I mean, it's not all right. But listen, it could all change. You're down 1 score. Houston's got a little mojo going here, but it's obviously not the end of the world. If the Texans can play as bad as they played first half and still have the lead at halftime, then certainly things can switch here. So it's far from being over. But I will say the Texans' biggest number yet, laying 3.5. And they got it. They charge a 34-yard line, 2nd and 3.
Yeah,
so.
With what we've seen out of the Chargers defensively, especially on this drive, I think the Houston Texans will convert here. So laying 3.5 at -130. If you like Houston, I think it's a good price. But if you like the Chargers, I would wait because I think you're going to get a better number. Live, look at that total, 33.5, Scott, -130 to the over. If the Chargers are to get back into this, I do think it goes over that total. 33.5 though at -130. I don't like the price there, as we do see someone down here for the Chargers. Not sure who that is. Oh, don't let it be Derwin James. Not sure who 10. It is right now. Number 10.
He's holding his wrist. Yeah.
Yeah, wrist issue.
No, 20. Number 20. My bad. I think it's number 20.
Okay.
At least it's not a leg, but
it is Cam Hart out there. Number 20.
He did his he kind of hit him with his shoulder, but trying to make a tackle, and boy, you see his body just go limp, like the right side of his body, just like boom. So all right, 33.5, 17 points. Are we going to get 17 points? I mean, you think we're going to get at least a field goal here. That makes it a 7-point game. I like the over. I think things have got to open up here. No more trying to screw around. Defenses go a little softer. I'm going to put the over in, Joe. I can't see this thing being 19-10, something dopey like that. They have to score. So both these teams. I think we get 17 points. I like the over. I'm going to put it now.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in-game live, Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Joe until 8 p.m. Eastern time, unless this game goes to overtime. Then we're going to hang around, I do believe, until the game ends. So a couple of things here. First up, the game itself, 10-6. Texans do lead, and they are driving. 6.5 minutes left to go in the third quarter. We got everything locked up now. We got a holding penalty, I see, anyway, on the Texans. We'll figure out where that goes. But I got a pretty good prop for you, Joe. We're going to go receiving yards, and we're going to use Joe Mixon. Right now, they don't have him listed for some reason. They did at halftime, but we were talking with Andrew. If they put him back up there, I would play him. Why? Because he doesn't have any receptions right now. So when I put it in at halftime, it was 4.5. If you look at Joe Mixon's numbers this season, you know, he's only had one game in which he did not have a reception. And that's all you really need for 4 yards. And if you want to use the yards, he only had one game in which he didn't get 5 yards. And even, he had a 5-yarder, which would have been good enough.
We got Derwin James interception. Derwin James interception plus 700, Scott.
Is he going to score?
He didn't. He didn't make it all the way down. That would have been a big payout, but we got Derwin James for the interception. Makes life feel so much better right now. If he could have ran that all the way back, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful catch out of Derwin James.
That return's not going to count.
No.
Because he was touched when he was down in the end zone. Yeah. So they'll put it at the 20-yard line.
Just for that interception, it was plus 700, making me feel a little bit better about the day. Texans can convert. Chargers now plus 100 on the money line. Oh, I love Derwin James. That's my next jersey.
Throwing the ball to Dalton Schultz, a deep pass to Dalton Schultz. You're moving the ball. What are you doing, Houston? You don't throw like a 50-50 pass to your, backup tight end or your tight end anyway. I mean, wow. 2 drives now for the Texans. Deep inside Charger territory this second half. One, they lose the ball on a fumble, and this one they lose it on an interception. Man, they're blowing it. They are blowing it.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but they got that ball. Like they got it marked at the 31 of Houston. That can't be. He was down in the wide receiver or Schultz clearly knocked him down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit behind things, but even the play-by-play here says that it's at the 31. That can't be.
I'm seeing per FanDuel, 1st and 10 for the Chargers on their 20-yard line.
Okay, yeah, there you go. That's what I should have been. So,
yeah, they were reviewing it.
Yeah. So real quickly back to the Mixon. He's had 5 yards receiving in every single game except one. He's had at least 2 receptions in every single game except 2, and one of them was the last game against Tennessee where he only played 1 drive. So for all intents and purposes, he's only had 1 game where he has not caught the ball out of the backfield. And the way they're throwing the ball here, I mean, I would think for sure Mixon will get a reception. So if they give him, or if your site allows a Mixon reception, I would put that in, or reception yards, 5 yards, definitely. So, but back to the game itself, that's a killer, man. If you're the Houston Texans, back-to-back drives like that, I hate those toss-up plays. I really do. When you're driving like that, I don't want to throw the ball up 50-50 because stuff like that can happen. But why take the chance? Just throw a real pass play. Don't do a 50-50 fade ball. I don't like that. So
No, neither do I. But I do as a Chargers fan, and a Chargers better.
Yes.
And the books really haven't moved the lines that much, Scott. It's
No, they haven't.
a 3.5 spread, right? Yeah, with
Yeah.
the Chargers having the ball, 1st and 10 on their own 20, yeah, they've got a long way to go down this field, but they have to find a way to be able to get down the field. What do you think the best game plan is for the Chargers to be able to convert on this drive? Like, are you looking for Gus Edwards to come back out and run that ball? Are you looking for them to get J.K. Dobbins back in the running back game? Or do you think Justin Herbert has to get this ball to Ladd McConkey?
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, they've only run it 15 times. They've thrown it 22. Not an awful mix, but maybe you go to Dobbins. He's had 8 carries for 26 yards. Nothing great, 3.3 yards a carry. But if that's your bread and butter, it's almost like you've tried and failed with Herbert. It just hasn't happened. So, maybe run a couple of times here, see if you get that running game going, loosen up the Texans' defense. Maybe that's what I would do, because right now they're not having a whole heck of a lot of success throwing the football. I'm surprised now it's down to 32.5. Okay, I think what happened was FanDuel got kind of caught napping there. They put it up to 34.5 because they thought the Chargers were going to have the ball at the Texans 30-yard line. But then when they realized the return didn't count and they got it at their own 39, now it's down to 32.5. So that makes sense.
The Texans have the ball back.
Oh, what happened?
The interception didn't count. They're saying Derwin James didn't have the ball. How does he not have the ball?
He's got the ball.
He's got the ball.
Oh,
he has the.
Oh, I don't know, Joe. That looks like an interception.
It's an interception. That's 100% an interception.
Wow.
I am blown away right now, Scott. Maybe there's a little bit of movement on the ball, but still, that's an interception. He has that ball.
For those that are watching us, obviously, he's got inside position. The ball does move, but he's got the ball, even though half of the ball is sticking out, and then he falls to the ground and the ball hits the ground. But if the ball doesn't move after it hits the ground, then it's a completion, it's a completion. In this case, an interception. But they're saying the ball moved a little bit when he fell to the ground. Boy, I don't know. That's wow. That's.
I'm speechless. What are the odds on me crying live on air today, Scott? Like, I'm trying not to over here. This is getting really hard right now, that's for sure. As a Chargers fan, my heart just feels like it's been torn out in this game. So 2nd and 40 here for the Houston Texans. Come on, Derwin James, make a big play again.
2nd and 30, I got. What the hell? And now it's 2nd and 40?
40 now.
I don't think I've seen a 2nd and 40. We'll tell you what happens when we come back. 2nd and 40. Holy crap.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Live, Pro Football Game Day here on the grid. Scott and Joe for another hour and a half or so, depending on how long this game lasts. And I tell you, every once in a while, Joe, we give out some winners. Hopefully, you guys had a chance to put it in because Joe Mixon just had a 13-yard reception. I said it, he has at least one and really at least two every single game. He didn't have any in the first half. They throw to him halfway decent amount of times, and it was only a matter of time, and he got it. So hopefully you guys were able to put it in. If so, you can cash that ticket. Cha-ching, cha-ching. Now, didn't get a first down, but it did put them in field goal range, and they kicked a short field goal, so it's a Houston 13, Chargers 6. Two things. Well, one thing, really. First up, the lines remain the same, surprisingly enough, Joe. They got a 7-point lead. And they're still only laying 3.5, which is what it was when they had a 4-point lead. Over under is still 33.5. The other thing is, I don't think this is necessarily a wrong thing, but there were so many penalties there, and one of the penalties was holding against the Texans. The Chargers elected to take the penalty, forcing a 2nd and 40. If they declined the penalty, it would have been 3rd and 20 at the Charger 30-yard line. Still in field goal range, theoretically. So I get what Harbaugh was thinking. I'm going to take the penalty, get him out of field goal range, and hopefully not allow 15 yards in the next two plays. But instead, what happened is they got about 25 yards. Didn't get the first down, but they got it all the way down to the 19-yard line. And then they end up kicking a field goal. So just a little, like I said, I don't think it was a wrong answer. I get the challenge there and the risk of taking the penalty, but maybe they would have missed a 47-yarder had it been an incompletion. The whole thing would have been set up differently, 3rd and 20 versus 2nd and 40. But 13-7 or 13-6 rather. Now you're in that overtime. If you had played that 15-1 overtime bet to start the game. Still third quarter, but at least we're back on a 7-point sequence.
Yeah, we are. And I keep trying to remind myself of that, Scott, as I'm like trying not to have a mental breakdown as a Chargers fan over here, because it is still just a one score game. If the Chargers drive down the field, get a touchdown, get the extra point, they have tied up this game. And right now they're at plus 172 on the money line. I do think it's a strong way to jump in. And yes, the Houston Texans have all of the momentum because at one point this was a 6-0 game. So the Houston Texans have been able to put up 13 unanswered points. I tell you, that interception by Derwin James should have been an interception. I don't think the Houston Texans should have got the ball back. The Chargers should have had the ball on that last drive. It never should have happened, but it did. And they held them to a field goal. So it was a good case. But you look at the Houston Texans at one point, they were back what? They were 2nd and 40, Scott?
40,
Why didn't the defense shut them down? Like, seriously, this defense needs to play. What are they doing out there?
Yeah, 2nd and 40. I mean, you hold them even to 15 yards, and you're looking at a 50-plus yard field goal. So that's why I get why Harbaugh did it. I'm not saying it was wrong, but it was just one of those things where, where's the defense we need? And I will say this, Joe. I mean, I know he's your guy, but he's a guy that I make fun of all the time. You know, it's 2nd and 40. What happens? Joey Bosa jumps off sides, make it 2nd and 35. Okay, not the end of the world. But you know who wasn't on the field 2nd and 35? Joey Bosa. I mean, he is so overrated and so soft. Why, if you're the big defensive stud, you know, game's not on the line, don't get me wrong, but this is a big opportunity for you to force them to get out of the, you know, to punt the football. And stop on 2nd and 3rd down, and he's not on the field in 2nd down. He comes off the field. What did he do jumping off sides that made him not have any energy to still be on the field for the real 2nd down?
They should they yanked him.
He's so
They
overrated.
probably just yanked him. Get off the field, right? I just got a message asking for my Chargers to please win and cover. Trust me, that's all I want is my Chargers to win and cover in this game. Actually, I just want them to win, Scott. At this point, I need the win. In my same game parlay, I've got the win. I can't believe we haven't had the touchdowns being able to come into play here for the Chargers. I think something has to give with that. Looking at those anytime touchdown scorers, we are getting Ladd now. If you think he can get in the end zone at plus 360, J.K. Dobbins at plus 380. These guys were like, I think J.K. Dobbins coming in was minus 125. Ladd was plus 140-ish. So if you think either can get in the end zone, I think it's a solid way to go now at this point in the game, Scott.
Yeah, I had Dobbins in my SGP, so I'm rooting for you with that. He was plus 125. So,
okay.
Yeah. And in fact, how are our SGPs doing? We put some of the other plays in. You kind of forget about these things, right? So we'll check those when we come back. In-game live, hour number 4 coming up.